Our Representative Harris, I appreciate you being here with me today. Last Friday, there was a town hall that ended early. You and Representative Brad Buckley got booed quite consistently. I just want to get your reaction to the town hall, your take on it.
Yeah, Michael, it was really disappointing, to see that many people who turned out. The vast majority of the crowd was there to actually hear from Dr. Buckley, the author of the bills that are in question that have to do with public education funding, reforming the classroom, and empowering parents, eliminating the STAR test. There's so many different topics that we wanted to cover. And you had a handful, maybe 50 out of 400 who all they wanted to do was yell and act like children, for lack of a better word. And so, I warned the crowd several times. I asked them to be respectful of everybody else in the room, and they chose to shut it down for everyone. And that's really unfortunate and an embarrassment for East Texas and an embarrassment for educators.
At the point when you had to shut down the meeting, did you still have questions left to answer, or you were out of questions anyway?
The majority of the questions had a similar theme to them, but what we are doing, we kept all of the questions that people had written down, and we're going back and sending emails and letters to those people that gave us their contact information to make sure that they have those questions addressed.
Now, of course, school vouchers have been a hotly contested topic for many years now. Were you at all surprised by what you saw in Palestine?
I was surprised because the reaction has been so much different than it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, when I voted for a very similar school choice bill, there was almost no reaction back home. And so now what that tells me is that the teachers' unions are far more organized and engaged than they were 2 years ago. And they've been putting out so much misinformation on what the bill does and what it will look like for our local public schools. I mean, I want to be clear. I've got over 30 public schools in my house district and one accredited private school that would qualify to receive an education savings account. So as it stands right now, it doesn't do anything to my public schools except inject these public schools with a massive amount of new money and all of the different reforms that we're doing. So it's unquestionably a net benefit for local public schools.
But you feel the town hall was disrespectful, you said.
The ones who chose to disrupt were disrespectful, no question.
What were some of the particular disruptions that really stood out to you?
The yelling, calling us vulgar things, fascists, lying, expletives. They weren't there to listen. They were there to yell and scream. And it's no wonder when parents and educators act like that we have out of control classrooms, if that's how the people who are supposed to be their role models behave.
I guess I do want to ask you, do you feel any of those concerns, have any weight to them? If there is any, I guess, legitimacy, and if you would, what your response to those would be.
Yeah, I think there are several people who do have legitimate concerns, but those concerns are largely based on information that they've been giving that is inaccurate. Like for starters, let's say that the education savings account or the school choice or the voucher, whatever you want to call it, is going to defund public schools. That simply is not the case. I've built this, helped craft this whole thing in a way that to make sure that our public schools are protected, and the school choice program prioritizes the kids that are the most expensive for our public schools to educate. Our special ed and low income kids, those are the ones who get to the front of the line on a school choice program that we have in the Texas House right now.
Do you plan on holding any other town halls in your district regarding school vouchers in the future?
Not right now. I don't have anything planned. We're getting to the part of session where more and more and more of my time is required here in Austin, and it's just really hard to get back there. And I brought my whole staff with me from Austin to Palestine last week. And now that we're in the heat of bill filings and having committee hearings and debates on the floor, it's probably just going to be unfeasible to do it again in the future.
And as you know, there's a public hearing scheduled for House Bill 3 coming up, I believe 1 week from this interview. And there's still more to go when it comes to the bill, whether it's ultimately put into law. What do you see as um, I guess the future of that legislation? Do you see the I guess rhetoric and the concern that you saw brought at the town hall? Do you see that continuing and potentially growing over the next few weeks, few months?
I think it will, because those liberal teachers unions, this is their hill to die on, and so they're going to put out every bit of misinformation and scare tactic that they can to work people up back in those local communities. And so I don't doubt for a second that the temperature will rise between now and when we have final passage of the bill. But as it stands right now in the House, there's over 76 co-authors, and there's no question that the bill has the votes to pass.
You mentioned, your view on this coming from a lot of the liberal side. Of course, today, liberal and Democrat are they're very similar, one and the same. Do you feel as though all the concerns are coming from that part of the country, or there are some concerns coming from Republicans, conservatives as well?
Yeah, there are. There's definitely concerns coming from the conservative homeschool crowd, which I totally understand. What does this do to open the door for government to get involved in regulating homeschoolers? And that's definitely a legitimate concern. We need to make sure that homeschooling is protected, that the parents who choose to homeschool or have no strings attached to the government, because 20 years down the road, it may not be conservative Republicans running the state. And so we want to make sure that we keep those safeguards in place.
And I guess last thing here, what would you say to those who attended the town hall? What would be your message to them?
Thank you, first of all, for attending and for taking the time to come. If you were the majority of the crowd who was there to engage in a respectful dialogue and to hear from Dr. Buckley and myself on what the bills actually did. And I'm sorry to those people who didn't get the chance to have their questions answered, and who at the end of the day, we all had to leave and at the hands of a few who chose to disrupt it and be disrespectful. So anyone is welcome to reach out to my office if they have questions or concerns or comments. I welcome that input from the community, and I hope they will do that.